Josie Murray, 75-year-old grandparent of missing Gus Lamont, was arrested on Monday, charged with possession of a sound moderator, a silencer that fits one of her guns. Maximum penalty, $75,000 fine or 15 years jail. Police say the charge is unrelated to the disappearance of Gus, unrelated to the shotgun incident in October when a gun was allegedly waved at a reporter. Just a firearms offence. Nothing to do with the missing 4-year-old. And if you believe that's the whole story, I have a bridge to sell you. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure the gun charge is legitimate. I'm sure Josie did possess an illegal sound moderator. But if you think police arrested a 75-year-old grandmother on a firearms technicality in the middle of a major crime investigation into her missing grandson just because they care deeply about gun registration compliance, you're not paying attention. This arrest is tactical. And I think the real purpose has nothing to do with the gun and everything to do with access. Let me explain what I think just happened. First, let's establish the facts. On Monday, Major Crime Police returned to Oak Park Station, the remote homestead near Yunta, where Gus disappeared almost 5 months ago. Josie Murray drove herself to the local police station where she was arrested and charged with 1 count of possession of a sound moderator that fits onto one of her firearms. Police statement: this is an aggravated offence as the moderator fits a firearm in their possession. She was bailed to appear in Peterborough Magistrates Court on May 6th. Police also conducted a 2-day search of the region, brought in a cadaver dog from Interstate, searched multiple buildings and structures at Oak Park Station and several adjoining locations, old mine shafts, an outhouse with fresh cement, a water tank at a neighbouring property. They found nothing, no new evidence, but Police Commissioner Grant Stevens said they'll be back frequently as the investigation continues. Now, here's what police want you to focus on. The gun charge is unrelated to Gus's disappearance, unrelated to the investigation. Just a separate matter that happened to come up during their visit, and here's what I think is actually happening. The gun charge is a pretext, a legal mechanism, a tactical tool to achieve something police desperately need: unrestricted access to Oak Park Station. Let me walk you through why this matters. Since February 6th, when police declared this a major crime, Shannon and Josie have had lawyers, separate lawyers. Casey Isaacs for Shannon, Andrew I for Josie. Both high-profile criminal defense attorneys who know exactly how to protect their clients' rights. One of those rights: you don't have to let police search your property without a warrant. And even with a warrant, there are limits, scope limits, time limits, areas that can be challenged, evidence that can be suppressed if the search exceeds warrant parameters. But here's what happens when you arrest someone. Everything changes. When Josie was arrested, even though she was immediately bailed, police gained something crucial: probable cause for expanded searches, grounds to obtain broader warrants, legal justification to return to the property repeatedly as part of the ongoing investigation into the firearms charge. But more importantly, an arrest creates leverage, pressure, a criminal charge hanging over someone's head. And that charge, possession of an illegal sound moderator, carries up to 15 years imprisonment. 15 years for a 75-year-old. That's functionally a life sentence. Now think about that from Josie's perspective. You're facing a potential life sentence for a gun technicality. Meanwhile, you're also a suspect in your grandson's disappearance and probable death. You have an expensive criminal lawyer. You have police searching your property repeatedly. You have public scrutiny, media attention, community judgment, and police are offering you a choice: implicitly, if not explicitly, cooperate on Gus, and maybe the gun charge gets reduced or dropped. Stay silent and face both cases. The firearms charge that's almost certainly going to result in conviction, and the major crime investigation that's building toward more serious charges. That's leverage. That's pressure. That's strategy. But I think there's an even more immediate tactical reason for this arrest, and it has to do with what police can do while Josie is in custody, even briefly, and what they can do in the immediate aftermath of an arrest. When police arrest someone at their home, they can conduct a protective sweep, search for weapons, search for evidence related to the arrest charge, search for anything in plain view. And while they're there, conducting that entirely legal search related to the firearms charge, if they happen to see evidence related to the Gus investigation, well, that's admissible. They can also interview Josie at the station, Separated from Shannon, separated from the lawyer who might not be immediately available. Even if Josie says nothing, and she probably said nothing, that interview creates a record. A timestamped statement of no comment that can be compared to any future statements. And here's the big one. Arresting Josie sends a message to Shannon. Shannon is at Oak Park Station. She sees police arrive. She sees them arrest Josie. She sees Josie driven away, even if just to the local station. She's left alone on that property, or with reduced family presence while police conduct their search. That's isolating. That's frightening. That's pressure. And while Shannon is alone, processing what just happened, maybe she's more willing to talk. Maybe she's more vulnerable. Maybe she makes a call to her lawyer that police can document. Maybe she does something, says something that provides information. Or maybe, and this is what I really think is happening, maybe with Josie arrested and removed from the property, even temporarily, Shannon can't coordinate the story anymore. Can't check with Josie about what to say. Can't present a unified front. Remember, they have separate lawyers. They're already operating with separate interests, but they're still living together, still communicating, still able to align their positions on a day-to-day basis. An arrest disrupts that. Even a brief arrest. Even an arrest that results in immediate bail. Because there's a period, hours maybe, where Shannon and Josie aren't together, where communication is monitored or prevented, where Shannon has to make decisions alone. And in that gap, police can work. But let's talk about the bigger picture. The search itself. Police brought a cadaver dog from interstate. That's not cheap. That's not casual. You don't bring a specialized cadaver dog for a routine search. You bring it when you think there's a body to find. They searched old mine shafts, an outhouse with fresh cement, a water tank at a neighbouring property. These aren't random locations. These are specific targets based on intelligence or evidence police already have. Fresh cement in an outhouse? That's suspicious. That suggests recent construction or repair. Why would you pour fresh cement in an outhouse on a remote property? What are you covering? What are you sealing? A water tank at a neighbouring property? Why neighbouring property? Because the vehicle seized in January went there? Because someone's statement placed them there on September 27th? Because phone data shows activity there? Old mine shafts? Because that's where you'd hide a body in remote South Australian outback. Deep. Difficult to search. Naturally concealing. Police found nothing this time. But they're coming back. Commissioner Grant Stevens said as much. They'll return frequently as the investigation continues. And here's why the arrest matters for those future searches. They now have ongoing grounds to return. The firearms charge is under investigation. Josie is on bail. Police can justify repeated visits to ensure compliance with bail conditions, to conduct further investigation into the firearms matter, to search for additional weapons or illegal items. Every visit is an opportunity to observe, to ask questions, to see what's changed on the property, to apply pressure, to find evidence. And every visit is legal because they're not just investigating Gus's disappearance. They're investigating the firearms charge. That gives them cover. Legal protection against claims of harassment or overreach. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not saying the firearms charge is fabricated. I'm not saying Josie didn't possess an illegal sound moderator. She probably did. It's probably a legitimate charge. What I'm saying is that police chose to act on it now, in the middle of a major crime investigation, after Josie had already lawyered up, after cooperation had ended, after the investigation had reached a point where they needed more access, more leverage, more pressure. That timing isn't coincidental. That's strategic. You know what else is strategic? Who they arrested. They arrested Josie. Not Shannon, just Josie. If both Shannon and Josie were equally culpable in the firearms offence, and on a property with multiple guns, that's likely, police could have arrested both. But they didn't. They arrested Josie, the one who had the furious row with Joshua 2 days after Gus disappeared, the one who allegedly brandished a shotgun at a reporter in October, the one who seems from outside observation to be more volatile, more confrontational, potentially more culpable. Arresting Josie specifically, leaving Shannon unarrested, creates a division. Shannon's status is different now. Shannon hasn't been arrested. Shannon isn't facing firearms charges. Shannon might start thinking about her own legal position differently than Josie's position. That's divide and conquer. Again, Police Commissioner Grant Stevens played down the possibility of an imminent arrest in the Gus case. I haven't been briefed on the potential for that outcome, but given the complexities around this particular investigation, it is a fair assumption that we will be working on the disappearance of Gus for some time to come yet. That's interesting phrasing. Complexities around this particular investigation. What complexities? No body. Multiple suspects. Family dynamics. Legal challenges. Some time to come yet. That's managing expectations. Don't expect quick resolution. This is a long game. But long games have moves. And the Josie arrest is a move. Here's what I think the sequence looks like. Phase 1, September-January. Gather statements, build timeline inconsistencies, collect evidence, study family dynamics. Phase 2, February 6. Public declaration, force lawyers, create division between Shannon and Josie, apply pressure to Jessica. Phase 3, now. Arrest on secondary charge to gain property access, isolate suspects from each other, create additional legal pressure, conduct thorough searches with cadaver dogs and specialised resources. Phase 4, coming. 4. Either someone breaks under accumulated pressure, or police find physical evidence during repeated searches, or they build circumstantial case strong enough to prosecute without body. We're in Phase 3 right now, and the Josie arrest is the opening move of this phase. What should we expect next? More searches. Police said they're coming back frequently. They'll use the firearms investigation as justification, but they're looking for Gus. More pressure on Shannon. With Josie arrested, Shannon's position changes. Her lawyer will be advising her differently now. She'll be calculating her own exposure, her own liability, her own future. More pressure on Jessica. If police are conducting repeated searches, if they're arresting grandparents, if the case is escalating, Jessica's silence becomes even more untenable. She's watching her parents face criminal charges, potentially multiple criminal charges, and she has to decide whether to keep protecting them or start telling the truth. Potential for Shannon to be arrested on similar or different charges. The firearms charge hit Josie first, but if police want to completely isolate both grandparents, they could arrest Shannon next, maybe on the same firearms grounds. Maybe on something else they find during these searches, and eventually potential for charges related to Gus's disappearance. The gun charge is aggravated, up to 15 years. But obstruction of justice, accessory after the fact, manslaughter, murder, those carry much heavier sentences. The firearms charge is a warm-up, a pressure tool. The real charges are still coming. One more thing about that cadaver dog. Police brought it from Interstate. They used it at Oak Park Station, at neighbouring properties in mine shafts. The dog didn't alert, apparently, because police found no new evidence. But cadaver dogs are highly trained. They can detect human decomposition even in very small amounts, even after remains have been moved. They can alert to scent evidence that indicates a body was present, even if it isn't anymore. If the dog didn't alert anywhere, that tells us something. Either Gus isn't buried on or near Oak Park Station, or his remains were moved very early and all scent evidence is gone, or he was concealed in a way that prevents scent detection. Sealed container, deep water, somewhere the dog couldn't access. That's important information for police. It narrows the search area or confirms their theory about what happened. And if the dog did alert somewhere but police aren't telling us, that's even more important. Because that gives them a specific location to focus on. Maybe they need equipment to access it, specialised machinery for a deep mine shaft, diving equipment for a water tank, excavation tools for cement. Maybe they need legal clearances. Maybe they need more evidence before they can justify the resources required, but they know where to look. And they'll be back. Here's the bottom line. Josie Murray's arrest on a firearms charge in the middle of a major crime investigation into her grandson's disappearance is not about the gun. It's about access, leverage, pressure, and strategy. Police needed grounds to conduct extensive searches of Oak Park Station and surrounding areas. They needed a reason to return repeatedly. They needed leverage over Josie specifically. They needed to create division between Shannon and Josie. They needed to escalate pressure on the entire family. The firearms charge gives them all of that, legally, defensibly, with a legitimate criminal charge that will hold up in court even if the Gus investigation stalls. This is sophisticated police work. This is long-term strategy. This is using every available legal tool to advance an investigation where the primary suspects have lawyered up and stopped cooperating. And it tells me police are confident. They wouldn't make this move, arresting a 75-year-old grandmother on a firearms technicality unless they believed it would advance the Gus investigation. They're not wasting time on unrelated charges. They're using every piece of leverage they have. Will it work? We'll see. But I think we're going to see more movement on this case soon. More searches, more pressure, maybe more arrests, maybe someone breaking silence. Something's building. And the Josie arrest is part of that build. For Gus's sake, I hope it leads somewhere. Because 5 months is too long for a 4-year-old to be missing. And someone knows where he is. I'll continue covering this case as it develops. Subscribe for updates.